I'm going to be sharing with you 5 difficult things that can happen during your spiritual awakening process, because the spiritual awakening process is beautiful. You're going to learn and experience some of the most beautiful things you've ever learned in your life. You're going to have the most powerful experiences you've ever had and find inner peace. But at the same time, you're going to have things that are challenging. You're going to have things that aren't so easy to digest for the ego. The ego can have certain truth bombs and have learned certain truths that aren't so easy for the ego to digest. And it's not the easiest for the ego to accept these truths. Now, I'm going to give you a realistic expectation of these things that you can realize during the spiritual awakening process to make it easy for you and allow you to move through these resistances and these challenges that the ego creates to make it as easy as possible for you. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one to let go of your ego, let go of the anxieties, reprogram your subconscious mind, and align fully with your life purpose and what you're really meant to be doing, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation to see if you're a good fit for the coaching program. So the first thing you got to understand when it comes to something that may arise that's difficult, the first thing I want to share with you is that people may not always understand your perspective, okay? They may not understand your perspective. They may not understand the way that you view things. And it might be difficult to digest that truth, because what happens is when you start to awaken, you start to go through massive shifts and experiences, and then you believe that people around you are just gonna understand right away. And a lot of times they don't, especially if it's family, if it's friends. Some people won't understand. You know, sometimes it's even the people that are really important in our lives that we think are gonna understand, and then they don't. And then it's even harder because that person that you thought would understand the most doesn't understand. Now, here's the thing that I learned about spiritual awakening is that it's impossible for you to fully communicate your experience, right? And that's beautiful, but at the same time, that can be difficult truth to swallow, because it's literally impossible for you to fully communicate the truth. The truth cannot be spoken, it can only be pointed to. And the more you have deeper experiences in meditation, maybe experimenting, with plant medicines, or going to some event where you have an awakening experience to who you really are, you have this mystical experience, and then you try to share it with somebody, and guess what? They just don't get it. You're thinking, no, it's actually somebody that's really important to me. They're gonna get it the most, and they get it the least. That can happen. That's actually a normal part of the awakening journey, is to accept that there's this part of your ego that feels this need to be understood by others. Now, I'm not saying people won't understand you. I'm saying that they won't fully understand you, because explaining your experience to somebody is almost, this is the analogy that I used to use, which just kind of popped up in my mind right now. It's almost like trying to explain to somebody that cannot see, that has no sight. Imagine a blind person. And you try to explain to that person what a kaleidoscope looks like. It's not possible. You can try, you can use your words as best as possible to communicate that, but is the communication the actual experience of the kaleidoscope, or is it just simply a communication? It's just words coming out of your mouth. It's not the real thing. You're just communicating those words to that person. And that can be a hard truth to swallow when it comes to awakening, because you realize nothing you ever say will ever communicate to somebody what you experience. Impossible. All you can do is point people, get better at communicating, get better at storytelling, but even that is a little tiny fraction of what you experienced, and it's only a pointer. And that can be a hard pill to swallow. Now, there's a beauty to that as well, because you have your own little individual experience that is unique to you, and no one will ever understand that. There's a beauty to that, because what would be the amazement in life if people could experience your experience? Your experience is your experience to have, and that's for you. that's the beauty of this game of life. We're one, but we're also separated, having our own unique individual experience. Now, this may seem like a bad thing at first, like, oh my gosh, I can't communicate my truth to people. I can't communicate, but that's the thing. You can't communicate the truth, but you can be the truth. And that's all you need to take on. It's not your job to communicate the truth. You can try, it can be your job, and it can be something you can do to try to be that truth and communicate that truth, but I'm gonna let you know right now, let go of that need to be fully understood, because you never will be, right? And that's one of the most difficult things to realize. The first thing on the spiritual awakening path is that nobody will fully understand you, because they can't. They can't understand you, but can they be you and fully experience you for your experience and what you went through? Not entirely. I'm not saying people can understand you at a very deep level. I'm saying that, they can't fully understand you. And when you learn to accept this, your life can be a lot more peaceful, because you don't have this need to be understood, this need to explain yourself and your experience and your mystical states and all these things you experience. You don't have this need. It's just like you surrender, you accept. You find peace with the fact that your experience is your experience. Now, the second thing I want to share with you that is a difficult thing that can happen to you during the spiritual awakening process is that there's going to be a lot of letting go. Now, I mean this literally letting go not just of one thing, but so many things. So many things you're going to have to let go of on the spiritual awakening path. And this is just naturally what happens. I'm not saying that you have to do this intentionally. Naturally, the universe is going to push you to let go. Just let go of all these different things that don't serve you. I'm not saying that you have to listen to me with a dogma. I'm saying that literally you'll naturally come to the conclusion that the universe is kind of forcing you to let go. Not because you heard it in a video, but because you just realize, I have to let go now of this thing and that thing. For example, I had to let go of doing something that I hated in school, which I thought I liked. Years of my time invested, so much money invested. I had to let go of certain friendships that I really did love at the time. Very valuable relationships that taught me so much in life, that I truly was connected to those people. But then I got to a point where those people weren't benefiting me in my life anymore. They just weren't helping me to get to the next level on my journey. I had to let go of that. Not from a place of resentment or anger, but from a place of love, and say, hey, it's time to let go. And you can't even tell the people sometimes. You just have to realize in your own heart, like, hey, it's time to let go. You might have to let go of bad habits. You might have to let go of this. There's so many things you're gonna have to let go of. You're gonna even have to let go of your mind, of your own logical mind. You have to let go of that too. You have to let go of understanding the world logically. You have to let go of your ego, your entire ego. Well, what is the nature of spiritual awakening is letting go. That's what it is. And that's not always the easiest thing. Now, once you finally let go, it's one of the most beautiful experiences you can ever have, is to let go and be free. Be free to be who you are. But in that process, while you're in the process, the ego is holding on. It can be difficult. Keep in mind, for all these different signs, the only thing making it difficult is your ego resisting the process. But it's not actually difficult. It's just the ego struggle trying to make it difficult, which actually makes it difficult. But it's not actually that difficult. It's just your ego holding on, trying to make it difficult. And that's normal. That's a normal part of the process. But this whole process of letting go is just going to happen more and more and more. You're going to let go of so many things that you didn't even think you had to let go of. You're going to be just like, oh my God, do I really have to let go of this now too? And then this, and then this, and now even the logical understanding of life, I have to let go of my logic now too. Like, you have to realize, oh my gosh, my logical mind's not going to help me here. I have to feel into my heart space. You got to do this, you got to do that. You have to think about this, you can't think about that anymore. You have to be in your heart now. It's about feeling into your heart, not thinking. Thinking is only stopping you from going deeper. And you have to let go of that. Friendships, careers, maybe you have to let go of a job, maybe a friendship. Your whole ego is going to be peeled back and let go. Now, believe me, This can sound dark, this can sound depressing the way that I'm communicating it, but believe me, on the other side of all that darkness is actually the most beautiful experience that you can possibly have in your life. Being a full embodiment of your true light, your true self, who you really are beyond that part of you that was unwilling to let go at the beginning. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful journey, but at the beginning it can be difficult. Letting go. Third thing you're going to have to do that may be difficult during this spiritual awakening process, for lack of a better term, is following your heart. You see, following your heart is beautiful, right? But it's not always easy, is it? It's not always easy to follow your heart. You're going to have family objections, not understanding you. You're going to have friends that don't understand you. You might not even believe in yourself. Your mind might be doubting, but in your heart, you got to make decisions sometimes. And that can be difficult to follow your heart. It's not always easy to follow your heart when your mind is telling you to do otherwise, and then the friends are telling you to do otherwise. You don't want to follow your heart. You want to listen to your mind because that's what the ego is comfortable with. But you're going to get to the point where you have to make a difficult change and actually follow your heart. And that may not be the easiest thing, because people around you may not understand at the beginning. They'll maybe come around eventually, maybe they won't, but you need to follow your heart sometimes. And that's not always the easiest thing. It's not always the easiest thing to follow your heart. It can be difficult. Now, once again, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be worthwhile. But at the beginning, you have to go through that difficulty of trusting your heart space when your mind tells you why it's not a good idea. You know, my heart told me, drop out of school, be fearless. That's what my heart said. My mind was connected to my heart in that moment, and it just felt like I had this feeling. And even when my mind was aligned with my heart, my mind said jump out of school too. But then the mind, when it comes back, when it's not following its heart, starts to doubt. It's like, oh, can you really do this? Is this really the right move? What if this happens, right? What if that happens? Then all these fears come up, all these doubts come up, and then you finally follow your heart. And guess what? The mind comes back in and then tries to tell you why it's not a good idea. You see, this can be the difficult negative side of following your heart. See, following your heart is beautiful, but following your heart is continually you living in a state of uncertainty sometimes. The nature of following your heart and having faith in your own self, you know, in the greater good of the universe and all of that, is you stepping into uncertainty, which can be scary to the ego sometimes, okay? Following your heart's beautiful, but it's not always easy, and that's one of the difficult things you're gonna have to start doing in your life, is feeling into your heart space and making decisions from your heart space, not only when things are easy, but the big life decisions, right? And very easy to make decisions with your heart when you're starting the awakening. When you get to that certain stage in your awakening where it's like, okay, now stuff is getting real. Now my career is on the line. Now this is on the line. Now this is going to change my life for the next however long I'm alive, 40, 50, 60, 100 years. Now I have to follow my heart now. Can you still follow your heart in that moment? Can you still remain faithful in that moment? Can you still trust the universe in that moment when it gets the most difficult? That's going to be the difficult process of this awakening. But then believe me, when you get to the other side, it always works out. Not how your ego thinks it should work out, but how it's meant to work out. And it's beautiful because that's what your soul wants, right? Is to follow what your heart wants in each and every moment. Tomorrow's not guaranteed, right? So don't expect some beautiful future. It's about being here now and following your heart now. That's what this journey is about. Following your heart now, not getting to the future, but following your heart now. That's what the journey is really about. And that's not always easy, but believe me, it's what will give you the most fulfillment and allow you to feel the most aligned with who you really are and give you fulfillment now, which, guess what, is the only moment that exists. Okay, there is no future, there's only now. So follow your heart now, especially if you're watching this video. Now's the most important time to follow your heart. There has never been a more powerful time to follow your heart than right now with what's happening in the world. Right now is the most important time. So it might be difficult, but I would invite you, just an invitation, not telling you what to do. I'm saying follow your heart. That's my invitation to you. Not telling you what to do, that's not my job, but my invitation to you is to follow your heart even when it's difficult. And now the fourth thing I want to share with you that's not the most easy thing to deal with, that can be a difficult thing during spiritual awakening, is that you start living in uncertainty. Now, once again, this can be one of the most beautiful and freeing feelings, to live in uncertainty. But at the beginning, you're gonna have to take that leap of faith into the unknown, which is not easy to what? Of course, the ego, the logical mind, doesn't like to live in uncertainty, because the very nature of living in uncertainty means to let go of the logical mind, which the ego doesn't want to do. It's going to hold for its life. But that's one of the difficult things at the beginning that may seem difficult, to go into that uncertainty. It can be something that's not the easiest for the ego to actually process, is stepping into that uncertainty, right? It's not always easy. Believe me, once again, when you get to the other side, it's the most beautiful and freeing and amazing feeling to not live in certainty and a false illusion of certainty and security, where you believe that things are so solid. Nothing's solid. Anything can break at any point. That's what's happening in the world right now. Everything's breaking down so then you can come in. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. That's a beautiful thing. That's the nature and flow of life, is that nothing is certain, and old structures need to break down for the new to come in. But at the beginning, that can be very difficult. It can be difficult for the ego to process that, to be like, oh my God, I have to step into uncertainty right now. Okay, it's not the easiest thing. It's like, oh my God, I can't even think in this moment right now. I have to let go of my thoughts. I have to move deeper into uncertainty. Not just when you're sitting there present to the moment meditating, but then also when you're following your purpose, when you're following your true path, taking a leap of faith into that uncertainty, trusting the universe. And I'm not saying don't be logical, don't be pragmatic, don't be proactive, be realistic, but you see lots of people confuse realism with fear. Okay? That's what a lot of people do. They confuse realism with fear, which blocks them from the greatest joy of life, which is to jump into uncertainty. That's what makes you feel happy. That's what gives you the most peace. When you live in uncertainty, that's what keeps your soul alive. When you become too comfortable, what do? Take the next step into the next level of certainty. When you become too comfortable and things become too easy, it's time to go to the next level. Now, of course, don't push too hard, else you'll drop back down lower than where you were trying to push from. But you're going to live in uncertainty when you actually start to go through this process, and that can be difficult. Now, believe me, once again, I just want to make it clear, I know I'm repeating myself a lot here, but these difficult things end up being the most beautiful things that you would not experience had you not moved through that difficulty that your ego was resisting. But it still can be difficult at during the process. Now, it's not going to be any more difficult than your ego makes it to be, because your mind is what's going to create the resistance and the difficulty, so to speak. But it was not easy for me at the beginning to, jump into the uncertainty. My mind was holding on and creating lots of resistance. Now, once I got through it, I looked back at my mind and I was like, really, mind? You had to overreact to all of that? Like, you had to do all of that? Like, I was just like, really? Like, my mind had to go through all of that resistance just to realize that I didn't have to go through that resistance, but I still had to go through that resistance to realize that I didn't have to go through that resistance. You see, that's the game of life we're playing here. The truth is that there's nothing to be afraid of, and that the mind creates more problems than needed, but you have to get to that point to realize that. At the beginning, your mind can fight and resist. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to live in uncertainty. What's this all about? I don't want to do this. And then you finally let go, and then you just feel peace. You see, that's the game of life we're playing. Now, you can't skip this process. I can make it easier for you by letting you know what's to come and setting the expectation, hey, that's what your awakening's about, but you can't run away from this process. Your mind will resist. No matter how far you get on this journey, whether you think you're higher or lower than somebody else at this, this game of consciousness that we're playing, There's always going to be a point in your life, no matter how far you get, as long as you're a human being living in duality, watching this video, living on this planet, there's always going to be the next level of uncertainty to live into, always. That's the nature of being a human being and also being spiritual, for lack of a better term. Okay, just a word. You know, being a spiritual being, having a human experience. Okay, there's always the next level of uncertainty. It can be difficult, but it is going to be the most beautiful and liberating thing. Believe me, the most beautiful experiences I have right now is being in a complete uncertain state. You know, not knowing what's going to happen the next day, not knowing what's going to happen in this video, what's going to flow through me, what's going to be channeling through me, what's going to happen with this point in my life, what's going to happen there. I love that. When I let go of the logical mind, it's like I'm not living with this burden of my ego. When you have to figure everything out with the ego, such a burden, isn't it? Isn't it such a burden to have to figure everything out logically, thinking about what you're going to say later, thinking about what you experienced in the past? Just let it go. Just let it go. Let yourself live in uncertainty. Might be difficult, but believe me, it can be peaceful. So the last thing that I want to share with you when it comes to dealing with things that may be difficult during spiritual awakening is a feeling of being alone. Now, this goes back to the first point, which is people don't understand you, but you feel like you can be alone sometimes, you know, like nobody understands you, nobody gets you, nobody understands your perspective. You feel like you're all alone. Even if you have a teacher, a master, guru, a coach, even when you have somebody that understands you, even then, you still feel alone. You know, whether you have a spiritual friend, you don't have a spiritual friend, you have somebody to talk to, doesn't matter. You just realize like, oh wow, I actually feel alone right now. You know, because you get to the point where you realize that no matter how much connection you have with people, the most important thing is the connection you have with yourself, and nobody can give that to you. And that's a beautiful insight, but at the same time, you realize you are the only one that can fulfill you, which is beautiful. But then also you realize that you're all you have. You know, even if you have all these beautiful friends, beautiful connection, but like you are you, right? And that's going to be your journey. Like, it's hard for me to communicate this. It's almost like no matter who you have in your life, still you might feel like you're alone sometimes. And that's completely normal. Okay, that's your ego accepting that you are a separate person, you are a separate being having this human experience. You're connected to everyone, but also you are separate. You are separate, okay? It's not about running away from that separation. It's about integrating that with the oneness and having it all connect. Okay, now it's so paradoxical. It's completely paradoxical to what the mind thinks, because like you think that as you connect deeper to everything and everyone, that you just feel connected. Now you feel abundant. Yes. Also, you might feel like you're alone. Just like, hey, like I went through all of this and you know, I still feel like I'm alone and I'm all I have. Why is that? Why do we feel that way? Because there's only one. There's only one thing, which is awareness. Awareness of everything. And this means that, you know, sometimes you might feel alone. Now, of course, it's an illusion, but at the same time, it's not, because everything's one. Now, I want you to know that it's completely normal to experience this feeling of loneliness. But understand that it really is not true. It's true from one perspective, but from another holistic perspective, you are not alone. You're connected to so many people, so many things that are greater than you. And you might feel like you're alone, but it is an illusion, okay? You might feel like you're connected with somebody. That can also be an illusion at the same time. Now, what does that mean? How can they both be illusions? Well, you realize that life is a paradox, okay? At the same time, you're a separate being. You're also one with everything, both at the same time. Now, how can that be possible? Well, you're gonna have to go a little bit deeper and prove that one to yourself, okay? I can't go into that in this video. That's not a discussion I can go into here. But you are connected with everything and everyone at the same time. There's only one awareness in this entire universe. And that can sometimes mean you feel alone. That's okay. I promise that will lead to a strong, powerful feeling of connection that you've never felt before. Connection to the whole, connection to the oneness, connection to everything and everyone, and also to nothing and no one. Huge paradox, I know. Think about it and go a little bit deeper. Okay, because what I'm sharing with you, the mind can't get it. Only your heart can get it. Your heart can get what I'm saying if you resonate with this at a deep level. Okay, you are connected with everything and everyone, and you're not separate. Okay, so if you experience any of these signs, I know that for the fifth one I went a little bit more esoteric there, but the truth is you're just going to feel more alone sometimes. And you know what? That's normal. You might feel these things coming up. You might feel alone sometimes. You might feel like things are difficult. You might feel like things aren't the easiest. But believe me that they're all worth it, and they all lead to something beautiful and powerful, and they are all for your highest good. And I want you to understand right now that all of these things that I shared with you are completely normal. And the truth, you're not alone. There's hundreds of other thousands of people on the planet right now going through a massive shift that are going through the exact same thing. There's thousands, like almost probably millions, feeling the same thing that you're feeling. So you're not alone. It can feel like you're alone. You can have the illusion that you're alone, but you're not. You're connected with everyone and everything. I do mean it. Also, on a more practical level, on a level that might be easier for everyone to understand watching this right now, a lot of people are going through the same thing. So don't think that you're alone. All these people are experiencing. You see however many likes on this video, however many comments, all these people resonate with what I shared. Like this video if you resonate with this. If you resonate with any of these points, hit the like button. So you're not alone. Lots of people are going through the same thing, and it's normal. It is normal for you to be going through these things. And once again, the theme I want to conclude this with is that these things may seem difficult at first, but they lead to a beautiful feeling of expansion and oneness that you could not have felt unless you went through those feelings, through the difficulty that your ego created. So once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one to let go of your ego, let go of the anxiety, reprogram your subconscious mind for success, and align with your life purpose, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation to see if you're a good fit for the coaching program. Have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.